So earlier on in your lecture, you were saying that due process past the 14th Amendment has been equally distributed to all groups across America.
No. I didn't say that in practice it has. I said the concept of due process is dedicated to the proposition that people should be treated as individuals. Obviously, segregation and racism and criminal justice up until the Civil Rights Act would suggest that on a practical level it was not equally distributed, obviously.
Okay, so in idea, but in practice, it was, you agree that it was not equally distributed to all groups across America?
Sure.
Okay, so then how is that in opposition to critical race theory that teaches that these institutions have been used to prosecute certain groups differently than others have been prosecuted?
Because that's not what critical race theory teaches. What critical race theory teaches is that supposedly colorblind institutions like due process of law are cover for racism as an institution. Due process of law is a problem because it is not because it is a good concept badly applied or improperly applied. It's because it is in and of itself a discriminatory concept. Right? This is what they say about capitalism also. Right? Free market economies are inherently discriminatory. They are covers for institutions of power. That's the critique. The critique is that due process of law, in and of itself, the idea of treating people individually ignores key components about human beings, namely how they are seen racially by other human beings, and thus due process of law is not enough to guarantee that people are treated equally or can be treated equally. I disagree. I think due process of law is an excellent guarantee, and straying away from that guarantee has been the problem with regard to due process of law, not the actual guarantee itself.
Okay. Sorry, my voice is a bit gone. So then would you agree not banning critical race theory in public, like in the theory that they are covers, but would you be a proponent of having the education that these institutions have been used to attack other minority groups across America and that it has had historic scars that are still we still see today?
So I wouldn't say that the institutions have been used to abuse I wouldn't say due process of law has been used to abuse minorities. I would say that people have refused to implement due process of law because they wanted to abuse minorities, of course. And of course you'd have to teach about that. I mean, that's the entire history of segregation and the subjugation of black Americans up to the Civil Rights Act. For sure. Of course. And this is why it's such a lie when people say that if you don't want to teach critical race theory, you don't want to teach history. I'm fine with teaching every ugly part of American history. What I'm not fine with is the idea that the foundational ideas of the United States of America, the notion that we are created equal before God with certain inalienable rights and that government was instituted in order to protect these rights, I disagree with the fundamental idea that these were a cover for power designed in order to subjugate black Americans. I think that's a lie, and I think it's deleterious to teach